Since his debut in 1954, Godzilla has gone on to be one of the most recognized and longest franchises worldwide. Spanning over 30 live-action movies, 2 cartoons, and plenty of merchandise, he's been portrayed in every way possible, from terrifying villain to a goofy hero and even a misunderstood anti-hero. But despite all of that, and the fact that he comes from the land of the rising sun, there's one medium he is yet to be conceived on. Of course, I'm talking about that most cherished and beloved art form that transcends all others. Anime.
I really enjoyed last night with my big brother.
FBI, open up! Anime was a mistake. It's nothing but trash.
That is until now, or like 2 years ago. Hello and welcome to Kaiju 101, a review series that covers kaiju-related media, hosted by the aptly named Professor Kaiju. And as you probably know from the title and intro, today's topic is the new-ish Godzilla anime, which is a special thing, considering that Godzilla originated from Japan and until now has never had a tried and true anime adaptation. Miniseries helping teach Japanese children to write and count does not in fact count. This is not a joke, this is real, this actually exists. Now I think I might know why this is, but I want to emphasize this is just my own thoughts on it. It's not based on anything I found, okay? Godzilla falls into the genre known in Japan as Kaiju-eiga, or monster movie. With that being said, it falls into an even bigger genre known as tokusatsu, meaning special filming. It's a Japanese term for any live-action film or television drama that heavily uses special effects. When you hear people say something is tokusatsu, they're more than likely referring to the series like Ultraman, Kamen Rider, or Super Sentai. And since toku shows are live-action, if you animate them, there really isn't any special effects anymore, you know, unless you want to get into CGI and the fact that that's special effects and how most movies are completely made of nothing but CGI, but let's not. Instead, let's get into some backstory. In 2016, Toho announced that an anime movie adaptation was in the works with a slated release of 2017. With the announcement coming off the heels of Shin Godzilla's release, fans were stoked and curious what direction it would take, especially being animated. Slowly, more information leaked. A story set several thousand years into the future, pictures of what looked like a possible alien world, 3D animation, and the fact that this would be a whole trilogy. The film would be co-directed by Kobun Shizuno and Hiroyuki Seishita, God, I hope I got those right, who have worked on various anime and previously worked together on the Netflix original anime Knights of Sidonia, which is funny since the anime movies were released through Netflix after running at Japanese theaters, and both animes have similar animation. The writer, Gen Orobuchi, God, I also hope I got that right, has worked on hit shows such as Psycho-Pass, Fate Zero, and this one. Now, some time ago, there was a controversial interview going around that had one of the directors basically saying that they hated all the old school monster fights, they wanted to aim for a completely new crowd, and if you were a hardcore fan of Godzilla and didn't like the new movies, good! But later, it was found that the interview originated from the most trustworthy and wholesome of sites, 4chan. There were some truths, though. Toho said that they wanted to stay away from the kaiju fights of old and try something a little different. They were hoping to reach a newer audience, even if that meant making something that older fans may not be that interested in. But perhaps they succeeded too well in that aspect. I have here on the line a hardcore Godzilla fan who's agreed to give his opinion. He goes by the name King Kong Ding Dong 69. Yes, hello, Mr. Dong. What did you think of the trilogy?
I believe that the Godzilla anime trilogy
Fantastic! Well, in order to prove to everyone this would be a fair and balanced review, I thought, why not invite the star himself? Everyone give it up for Godzilla 2017, or by his Tinder profile, Godzilla Earth.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You know, they call me Godzilla Earth because, I'm so huge, if you know what I'm saying. I'm also slowly dying. And now that we've all been scared and scarred, let's take a look at the very first Godzilla animated feature film, Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters. In the last summer of the 20th century, kaiju start popping up everywhere, with mankind scrambling to fend them off, until, of course, Godzilla shows up. After taking literally 150 nukes to the face, all hope seems lost. Until count 'em, two separate but equally human-looking alien races show up. The Belusaludo, oh god, what a mouthful, who lost their planet to a black hole and come offering to destroy Godzilla with their advanced technology. And the Exif, who kind of look like elves, basically spacefaring missionaries, also lost their planet and are like, y'all need space Jesus! The Boo-Boos create their ultimate weapon, Mechagodzilla, which doesn't start because they forgot to install an operating system. Without it, humanity decides on the most logical of decisions.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
And take a small portion of each race in search of a new planet. Cut to years later, we see our main character, Captain Haruo Sakaki, doing what all main characters do, threatening to blow up a shuttle filled with old people. The shuttle is supposed to visit a nearby planet to see if it's inhabitable, and he believes that the higher-ups are just trying to get rid of the elderly so they have less mouths to feed on the ship. But he's interrupted by his grandpa, his last living relative, and tells him that they all volunteered to go, it was their choice, and to not worry about them. Of course, after getting arrested, he watches from a window as...
Bro, I'm straight up not having a good time.
Later, his friend, Metphis, and Exif, slips him some classified data on Godzilla so Haruo can continue his mysterious research. The higher-ups try to decide what to do now since the planet is a no-go and their supplies are running short, while a mysterious report has been released on the ship's network detailing a plan to defeat Godzilla. They decide to return to Earth hoping that things have changed since they calculate due to their space drive thing. It's been about 1,000 years since leaving. So they use the Exif's it's like their like, I don't know, supercomputer thing, whatever, and also does their warp jump thing. So they use that and they Tokyo drift themselves back to Earth. Though with some scanning, they realize it hasn't been just 1,000 years, it's been 10,000 years, and the monster that they all ran from is still alive. Metphis and his commander push destroying Godzilla and reveal that the author of the report was none other than Haruo, and get him out on bail. Haruo then explains that from the classified data, he's discovered Godzilla puts out an electromagnetic pulse that creates a nigh-indestructible shield, but by pinpointing a faint noise he admits, they should be able to pinpoint what part of his body produces the shield, stick an EMP probe in him, and blow him up. What? What the fuck? They actually agree to his plan and the 600 people he needs to execute it, but put Elliot Leland in charge, a man who seems to have some kind of history with Haruo. After reaching Earth, they break off into groups, of course, and start surveying the area. Unfortunately, Haruo's group is attacked by some cool, horrifying flying creatures called Servum. After the attack, their scientist and lead exposition dropper, Martin Lazari, studies the bodies and, with some research on the local fauna, discovers that they both have traces of Godzilla's DNA, as if Godzilla himself has literally affected the planet. Also, it's been 20,000 years. With heavy damage from the Servum attack, Leland decides to retreat, but Metphis points out a few things and just kind of railroads him back into Haruo's original plan, minus intentionally going after Godzilla. It's okay though, because they unintentionally run into him.
Well, we're boned.
Leland ends up sacrificing himself, saving Haruo and the others, and allow them to discover that it's one of Godzilla's dorsal fins that creates the shield. With Leland dead, command would go to Metphis, but he instead hands it over to Haruo, believing he's the only one who can defeat Godzilla. Haruo, with this newly bestowed leadership, copy and pastes a rallying speech found in most every action movie, and goes into battle. After a crazy intense fight, they finally get to stick the EMP probes in Godzilla, and... everyone is ecstatic until Lazari, being a complete buzzkill, hypothesizes that's not a word, hypothesizes that this may have just been an offspring of the original Godzilla. And in an almost comical fashion, the ground shakes and a mountain starts to rise in the distance. Oh wait, that's not a mountain. It's the original Godzilla. Effortlessly destroys most of the crew, leaving Haru buried, slowly losing consciousness. And that's basically Planet of the Monsters. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Earth? Great! Now that we've laid out the skeletal structure, let's rip into all the delicious, meaty, fatty morsels like a blood-starved beast. I mean, let's talk about the good. Now, we've seen the Godzilla franchise have advanced technology, or be set a few decades in the future, but it's never gone to this extent. It's new and refreshing for the series, and with how radically different the Earth is, it might as well be set on an alien planet. Speaking of radical, how about our radical borderline terrorist protagonist? Haru isn't the most fleshed out character, but we do get a sense of who he is. We see Godzilla kill his parents, force him and the rest of mankind to abandon their home,
And you took my job! He took his job!
Plus, in the first 5 minutes, his last living relative dies right in front of his eyes. Wow, that sucks. No wonder he's so full of angsty rage. But he's also intelligent, demonstrated by the fact that he was the one to come up with and execute the plan to destroy Godzilla. And it worked, sorta. While we're on the subject of Godzilla, this Godzilla is something we've never seen before. His color, the design, the height of 300 meters or 900 feet, making him the biggest Godzilla to date, the fact that he's literally based on a tree and looks as old as one. Previous films have touched on Godzilla having offspring or children before, but not to this extent. Not only is there a smaller offspring with the possibility of there being more, but other creatures seem to either have spawned from him or be mutated by him, and the very planet itself has been changed just by his presence. I feel like there might be a few other things I could say in favor of this movie, but f*** it. Let's go into the bad. In order to set up the movie, we're given a huge exposition dump of kaiju appearing worldwide and humanity's fight against them. But with no actual fighting or even animating for that matter, it's almost done like a motion comic. We even see some kaiju cameos from other Toho films that never appeared in a Godzilla movie. But don't worry, you can see it all right here in this prequel novel. That's only in Japanese, and will probably never be translated. Better start learning now, those characters can be quite complex. Talking about complex characters, this film has none. Haru has some depth, but it really isn't complex. Everyone else gets no real growth or even screen time to get any type of depth to them. Mephis is probably the next most expanded character we get. We know he's an Exif, he's very religious, has some kind of history with Haruo, and knows more than he's letting on. Like he's hiding something, like the dirty alien that he is. And while we're talking about mild xenophobia, can we just talk about the designs of the Exif and Barracudas? My god, I really hate their design. It's extremely lazy. The Exifs are taller and have like pointy ears. They basically look like space elves, while the buffalo have like tiny bone protrusions on their faces. That's what Wikizilla says. It literally looks like hair. This is animation. Why don't they look alien? I'm not even asking for that much, but like even a different skin tone or more obvious parts of their bodies are alien. Some actual horns or other details so that I know that these guys are not human. Even some of the older films with their limited budget at least tried to make them look alien, sometimes. I mean, on my first viewing, I thought these guys were just black. Maybe that says more about my character. But the most egregious of the characters is Yuko Tani. Her character is Girl. In posters and promotional material, they make her look like a core cast member, yet she gets like 5 minutes of screen time and barely any dialogue. And to top it off, there's one scene that really gets me. She says, like a stereotypical anime character, "I want to get stronger." Which I reply, "Bitch, who are you?" The movie also has pacing issues. There's definitely times where I feel like they stretch out scenes explaining things a little bit too long when we could have seen more visuals of the world or gotten a little bit more taste for the characters. There's also the problem of Godzilla's appearance, as in appearing in this movie. Now, I'm not one to argue the whole screen time debate thing, but for a movie that's supposed to kick off an entire trilogy, we really don't get much time with the bumbling oaf. I'd also like to quickly mention the animation. I don't think it's terrible. I've seen clips of other 3D animes that were far worse, though I think it might take you some time getting used to watching it. Honestly, the anime that the directors worked on last, Knights of Sidonia, I think has worse animation than this one. But I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I wish they had gone with the traditional 2D anime, or at the very least blended both together, similar to another surprisingly super successful show that was based off of a tokusatsu property. In conclusion, Planet of the Monsters is an interesting concept that paves the way for a completely new story for Godzilla. Though it's not perfect, the ideas are interesting enough to make you want to know more. Even though Haruo isn't very developed, I feel he still has enough of a draw to keep you invested. Plus, the mysteries of how the Earth has changed, what these new creatures are, what other creatures there might be, how the Exifs and the Brouhahas will come into play in the next movies, what other powers and things can or will Godzilla do? These questions and more I think help pull you in and get you excited for the next one. Because remember, this is animated, meaning there's no limit to what can happen. No limit to the potential. So much potential! But I shouldn't worry, it's just the first movie. There's so much room for potential. Isn't that right, Godzilla?
What year is it?
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Hey, wait a minute. I never got to do anything. I showed up at the beginning and at the end with little impact on this entire review.
Huh. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, please give this video a like, leave a comment and let me know what you thought of the movie or this review, and subscribe if you want to see more garbage content like this. And remember, sharing is caring, and if you have friends you think that might like this, please give it a share, because God knows I don't have any to share with.
Serve 'em! Show the little bitch what happens when you mess with the king.
This has been Professor Kaiju. I'll see you at some point. Bye!